If you like listening to Unfold, please subscribe and follow us on your device. That way, you'll never miss an episode. You can do this on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Go ahead, make your listening easier.
One of the things that made this our home were the trees. This is one that is just really the one that we centered everything around.
That's Eaton Fire survivor Jeff Henderson talking about the oaks in the backyard of what was his Altadena home.
When we first came up, I just prayed for it.
The fires that tore through LA destroyed nearly 18,000 structures.
Entire neighborhoods were leveled.
But after the flames were put out, people didn't just grieve lost lives or lost homes. They grieved their trees.
Many survived the fires, only to be chopped down later during cleanup.
Not because anyone was careless, but because it's so hard to know which had a chance at survival and which were just hazards.
The fate of trees wasn't the only big unknown left by the fire.
Lots of questions were still hanging in the air, including what might be hiding in the smoke.
In this episode of Unfold, we'll get some answers from the scientists studying the aftermath of LA's fires.
Coming to you from UC Davis.
And from UC Agriculture and Natural Resources.
This is Unfold. I'm Amy Quinton.
And I'm Caroline Champlin.
Was your house here and this is your back courtyard?
Yeah, it was right there where the little porch thing is. That's where it was.
Jeff Henderson had lived on Altadena Drive for more than 3 decades before his historic home burned down last year.
It was an 1885 house that we'd rebuilt, and it wasn't like we'd been here for 5 years. It was something that we really loved.
Both of his daughters got married in this backyard, underneath their 4 towering oaks. Today, those trees are charred, blackened from trunk to top. And tacked on each of them is a homemade sign.
And it says, "Do not cut tree." Said, "If questions, please call owner at my number." And I had signs everywhere. I had, don't take the rocks, don't take this, don't take that, because I had no idea who was coming.
Who ended up coming were members of the Army Corps of Engineers, tasked with clearing the rubble of people's lots. Throughout LA's burn zones, they determined what vegetation could stay and what had to go.
And unfortunately, some of the opinions in the beginning weren't good, and we've lost a lot of trees.
On one of Jeff's oaks, they spray-painted 3 blue dots, what locals call the dots of death, meaning marked for removal. But burnt as they are, those trees are now the only traces of his home. Jeff's wife told him if the trees go, maybe they should go too.
I just prayed. I said, please, give us a shot. Anyway.
Jeff's trees have caught the attention of a team of scientists from UC Davis, UCA&R, UCLA, and the U.S. Forest Service. Because what's happening to these trees gets at a bigger research question. How do trees fare in urban wildfires? Which ones survive and which ones don't?
We don't know what trees to replant now because we don't know how urban trees react to fire. I can't tell you, this tree's going to do better if a fire happens again or not. We don't have that research yet.
That's Chris Shogren, an environmental horticulture advisor with UCA&R. To understand more, he and UC Davis plant scientist Alessandro Ossola are getting up close with the scorched trees.
So, 1 meter diameter oak. Pretty big puppy. Okay.
And determining their health requires specialized tools.
So what we use is this guy here.
He pulls out what looks like a pink and yellow Nerf gun.
Which is not a gun.
It's actually called a resistograph, and he aims it point blank at the tree.
So this one is essentially pushing this needle into the tree. Essentially, the harder the wood is in that particular location, the more resistance this guy has to do to push the needle in. Mm-hmm. It's gonna squeak. Sometimes it's gonna start smoking.
as it's going in, it's getting denser and denser wood, which is what we wanted to see.
Based on the readings, the experts believe these trees have a good shot at recovery.
From day one, it's incredible how good they look to me. But then again, other people come for the first time and they say, wow, why did you keep these?
For Jeff, the answer is in the bright green leaves sprouting from the branches. So far, it looks like he made the right call.
This could be a nice, happy, healthy tree. It's going to need a little bit of work, but...
Right. But now it's got great character. I'm serious. I do not want to cut it down.
Before the team can draw any conclusions, they'll need a lot more data. That's why they're surveying trees across Altadena and the Palisades.
Ultimately, there's a lot we don't know, and it just takes time for those trees to tell us how they're going to do, how they're going to recover, and so we just have to be out there and listen to them.
The effort got started a year ago, when homeowners were still taking in the damage themselves.
You're out there, just trying to take a look at trees, and they come up to you and they're crying, and, they almost give you their whole life story of how much time and everything they spent. And so you just kind of get attached to them a little bit.
For Chris, hearing those stories has made his work feel that much more urgent. To understand what's happening with the trees, scientists need to be able to see the big picture.
Okay, let's see whether I can find a satellite. 5 meters accuracy, 4 meters, 3 meters, 2 centimeters.
Alessandro is setting up a LiDAR sensor in the back of his blue Toyota Tacoma truck.
Okay, anyone familiar with LiDAR? Have you seen a LiDAR unit before?
The device is on a tripod, and he's using it to make a 3D map of the burn zones.
Now we're gonna start a first scan. You're gonna be scanned as well, but trust me, it's not dangerous.
The device shoots out lasers, which bounce off objects and return to the sensor. As the LiDAR rotates, it captures everything from damaged homes to the condition of individual trees.
And little by little, it creates a 3D point cloud of everything in the landscape up to 800 meters away.
By driving hundreds of miles year after year, they'll know exactly which trees were taken out and where to plant new ones. They'll end up with some of the most detailed 3D maps ever made of urban burn zones.
Caroline, I've seen some of the LiDAR system images that Alessandro captured, and I'm really impressed with the detail. Has any of this kind of work been done before?
Yeah, there has been some research on vegetation after urban wildfires in Santa Rosa, Ventura, Paradise, and Maui. But this data stands out because it's being collected on the ground, street by street and tree by tree, rather than relying on satellite images.
Yeah. It's funny, given the amount of destruction and how much survivors lost in the fires, I guess I'm a little surprised that people still care so much about the trees still there.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me, but I think other people may not realize how green Altadena was as a community, especially if you're not from the area. And it really stood out amongst other neighborhoods in LA as a especially green space. But as Alessandro told me, everyone should care about trees.
Plants and trees are providing, many, many benefits. Shade, they are providing cooling benefits. They are providing benefits in terms of your mental well-being and your, general health. So we need to strike a balance between having a landscape that is green enough, but also safe. So communities, they can be fire resilient for the future.
Alessandro is also running experiments to learn which plants are highly flammable and which ones might help slow a fire.
It's all important information to know with a changing climate. And while Alessandro and Chris were studying trees in burn zones, another UC Davis scientist was also at work, civil and environmental engineering professor Michael Kleeman. He knew something most people may not think about when fires rip through urban areas. The danger doesn't end when the flames are put out.
16 to 18,000 structures burned, and everything in them, printers, monitors, solar cells, battery-operated vehicles, and everything in between, wires, plastics, just anything you can imagine. And so I think that there's a huge, potential for toxic materials in both the smoke and the debris afterwards.
Michael studies air quality, so when the Eaton and Palisades fires hit, he saw an opportunity
to monitor potential contaminants in the air.
Right, and it just so happened that he was already studying smoke impacts from wildfires and already had much of the air quality monitoring equipment he would need.
Okay, but most scientists can't just hop in a car, drive 6 or 7 hours to LA, and start monitoring air quality. Didn't he need some funding or planning to do that kind of research?
Well, ideally, but he says there was no time.
You have to respond in the moment. I mean, the fire doesn't wait for you to write your NSF grant and make it pretty. The fire demands that you get out there in time to be relevant, because if you miss it, you're not relevant.
So he drove down with all his monitoring equipment strapped to the back of a truck. And what he found in the air over LA surprised everyone.
All right, should I just get in?
I climb into a white electric pickup truck, but this is no ordinary electric truck. It's a mobile air quality lab.
Wildfires are really dynamic, and so it's hard to predict where the pollution is going to be. And so with an electric vehicle platform like this, we can drive to wherever the smoke is or the dust is or whatever's happening that's generating the air pollution that we're worried about.
Michael drove this truck straight into the burn zones in Altadena and the Palisades. 5 trips over 9 months, from shortly after the fire through the long, dusty cleanup phase. In the back seat, machines buzz.
So we've got monitors on board that are measuring airborne particles and oxides of nitrogen are the 2 active things that are running right now.
He's also measuring black carbon and volatile organic compounds. On the back of the truck, air is constantly being pulled into multiple instruments. One device, called a cascade impactor, separates particles by size.
So we're sweeping through the ultrafine particle size range, looking for particles smaller than 100 nanometers.
The smaller the pollution particle, the more potential danger to your body.
And there's a huge difference in how your body responds to particles of different sizes. We have evolved sort of filtering out dust, larger particles, and so we can get rid of the big stuff, but the really, really tiny, small stuff, we're not very evolved to handle. And so that stuff, when you inhale it, will go through your cell membranes, it'll circulate in your blood, it'll go into all your major organs, it'll be in your brain, your liver, and everything in between.
And it was among those smallest particles where he found something alarming.
And so that's where we saw the action. It was those very, very tiny particles where we found hexavalent chromium.
Hexavalent chromium, a toxic substance, a known carcinogen. What's worse, it was a particle so small, it's never even been studied.
We just flat out don't know what a 56 nanometer or smaller hexavalent chromium particle does to you. No one has ever measured the health effects of that.
Michael then looked at atmospheric models to track how those tiny particles moved.
And when we put in what we observed in the cleanup zones into those models and predict where the wind would carry it and who was exposed, we can see concentrations that are elevated all through the western central part of Los Angeles.
More than 3 million people in 100 different zip codes in LA were likely exposed, maybe more. Michael says the source of the hexavalent chromium isn't entirely clear. Electronics, artificial turf, and possibly even the chemicals used to fight the fires.
Even the flame retardant that they drop from the aircraft can potentially have the chrome in it, and we're working to try to understand all those things, but we're not ready at this point to know definitively where it might have come from.
Flame retardant was designed for wildland fires, back when those fires stayed in the wild. That line is disappearing. Michael says the way we fight urban fires may have to evolve. The fires also left behind debris, hundreds of thousands of truckloads of it. Cleanup crews did everything they could to prevent dust, wetting down the rubble and covering truck beds.
But even, when you're moving that much material, even a few percent slippage, you're going to potentially have issues. And again, we certainly measured something in the air when we were out there, so we believe that there was some, debris, dust that was getting out there and potentially could expose people.
Michael says that's important to keep in mind when the next urban fire hits, but it's complicated. Even knowing the risk, some survivors may feel compelled to go back to their home to see if they can find any belongings.
It's very much hard. I think people have fireproof safes, people have valuables, family heirlooms that they don't want to lose. And so I understand the desire to go back there, but you just have to be aware that all that ashy material is toxic. You know, the last thing you want to do is survive the fire and then die in the aftermath.
On later visits to the burn areas, Michael says the hexavalent chromium started changing into a less toxic form. Within 6 months, virtually all of it was gone. For Michael, the work is about understanding what's left behind, not just for this fire, but for the next one, because the fires are changing, and what's in the air is changing with them.
You can learn more about all this fire research at our website, ucdavis.edu/unfold.
You can also read an in-depth story at UCANR's Green blog. Unfold's website will also have links to photos and videos. I'm Amy Quinton.
And I'm Caroline Champlin. Thanks for listening.
Unfold is a production of UC Davis. Original music for Unfold comes from Damien Verrett and Curtis Jerome Haynes. Additional music comes from Blue Dot Sessions.